The pack of dire wolves slowly encircled the group, their presence heavy and menacing. Erget, sensing the tension, approached the alpha wolf cautiously, offering parley with the massive predator. Through a tense exchange, the group learned that the dire wolf they had killed had stumbled upon a trap set by a nearby clan of goblins. Poisoned and driven mad by the toxin, the wolf had been hunted by the alpha and his best trackers. Though the pack acknowledged the wolf's madness, they were still offended that the group had taken it upon themselves to kill one of their own. In return for their help, the pack demanded retribution. The group must hunt down the goblins responsible for poisoning their packmate and destroy them. The alpha also questioned where the she had been, remarking that the balance and peace of the forest had once been their sacred duty. The goblin's intrusion, he suggested, was a direct result of the she's absence. Determined to uphold their honor, the group set out toward the cave where the goblins were hiding. As they ventured deeper into the forest, the skies darkened and rain began to fall, a rare occurrence in the unusually dry spring. They approached the cave, a yawning maw in the side of a hill, covered in thick trees and jagged rocks. Minnow, ever cautious, kept to the treetops, while the others took cover in the brush. Outside the cave, two goblins stood guard, lost in conversation. The group set up a quiet ambush, but before they could act, Minnow's arrow shot through the air with deadly precision, striking one goblin down instantly. The other goblin panicked, fled into the depths of the cave. Knowing it would be foolish to rush in blindly, the group devised a plan to smoke out the goblins. They built a large fire at the cave's entrance, but their efforts were in vain. Mera, climbing the rocks above, discovered that the hill was riddled with makeshift chimneys, allowing the smoke to escape. While they tried to smoke out the goblins, Olena called into the darkness, attempting to parley. A lone goblin responded from the shadows, but despite her efforts, they refused to emerge. After hours of fruitless attempts, the group realized they had no choice but to enter the cave. Steeling themselves, they ventured inside, where the cave was unexpectedly lit by torchlight, yet eerily empty. As they delved deeper, they discovered an animal pen filled with goblin dogs, vicious, dog-like rodent creatures. Olena, ever resourceful, cast a charm spell on one of the beasts, turning it from foe to friend. Erget and Mera pressed forward past the pens, finding themselves in a central chamber filled with goblins. At the head of the horde stood a larger, more aggressive goblin, a chieftain. The goblins barked and snarled in their guttural language, their threats echoing off the walls. Erget wasted no time, leaping into the fray. Minnow's arrows flew true, striking the chieftain in the eye, and then finishing him off with a second shot. Panic rippled through the goblin ranks as they scattered in terror. Mera followed up with a volley from her sling, taking down another goblin. As the chaos subsided, Erget called for a parley. The surviving goblins, trembling, sent a representative to speak with him. In broken Elvish, the goblin explained that their great spirit had led them to the forest, commanding them to be fruitful. The goblin eagerly presented a strange, magical device, a ghostly cube floating above a metallic sphere. As the cube activated, a spectral goblin appeared, dressed in strange robes and a pointed hat. With a mischievous grin, the apparition proclaimed, "Be fruitful and multiply," followed by, "Eat well and be happy." The goblins gazed in awe, reverently declaring that the Great Spirit had spoken. The device, however, made no sense to the group. The goblin then announced that they would bring their great friend to speak with the elves. Moments later, a deep roar echoed from the back of the cave, and out stepped a massive, man-shaped bear, clad in leather armor, adorned with bone trinkets and blue face paint. The bear introduced himself as Waiting Sorrow, a creature unlike any the group had ever seen. Waiting Sorrow explained that the goblins had captured him weeks ago, but had treated him well. He found their company enjoyable, though he noted that their leader had been a bully, and the goblins tended to mimic the personality of their strongest member. With the chieftain now dead, the goblins were lost and without purpose. Acting as a translator, Waiting Sorrow conveyed the goblins' offer. They would leave the Green Home and head west across the mountains if the elves spared them. After much discussion, the group agreed. Peace was restored, and they gathered the goblin chief's body to present to the dire wolf pack as proof of their completed task. As they exited the cave, Waiting Sorrow followed, puffing on a long wooden pipe as they sat down to catch their breath. In their conversation with Waiting Sorrow, they learned that he was a Kodan, a race from the far north, beyond the Great Ice. He was on a journey following a vision from the spirits, learning all he could about the world. When asked what he was searching for, Waiting Sorrow admitted that he didn't know, but he was certain he would recognize it when he found it. Though Erget offered for him to join their group, Waiting Sorrow declined, stating that his journey was his own, though he was certain their paths would cross again. As he departed, he thanked them, astonishing the group by speaking fluent Elvish, a language he had somehow learned in the brief time they had known him. After a brief rest, the group was approached by the dire wolf Alpha. "Have you hunted them down? Have you brought my pack justice, as your kind swore to do in ages past?" The group presented the body of the goblin chief, which was accepted by the Alpha. As another dire wolf emerged to claim the body, the Alpha remarked, "The She have shown they are honorable, as they were in ages past. It is good to have the Green Home's protectors back." With that, the wolves disappeared into the forest, leaving the group to ponder why the She were no longer known as the forest's guardians. Later that night, as the group camped, Sita stood watch, her thoughts consumed by the mystery of the She's diminished role in the forest. Her musings were interrupted by the soft flapping of wings and a quiet pecking sound. She looked up to see a large raven perched on a nearby branch, but this was no ordinary raven. Its eyes glowed with a subtle purple light, and a mist-like energy seemed to flow into its feathers, as if it were being painted into existence. The raven cawed and flew to another branch. Sita called out to it, asking what it wanted. In response, she heard a woman's voice say, "Follow." As the others began to stir, Mera loosed a sling bullet at the bird, but it merely flew further away, still watching them. "Follow," the raven repeated. The group debated the nature of the strange bird, and after Sita prayed to the spirits and cast a spell to discern its true nature, she found it to be a strong source of magical energy, with no ill intent. Deciding to trust the raven, they followed it through the forest, always keeping just ahead of them. After hours of following the enigmatic raven, the group suddenly found themselves standing before a massive, ancient statue of a bearded man, broken and overgrown with moss and vines. The statue's age was evident, but what truly shocked them was that it depicted a human, not an elf, a discovery that felt both sacrilegious and ominous in the depths of the Green Home. The raven, now perched on the statue's shoulder, cawed loudly, its voice echoing through the trees. "Here," it declared, as if this place held secrets yet to be revealed. Just then, from behind the statue, an elf with black hair stepped out, quietly singing to himself. His eyes widened in surprise as he noticed the party standing before him. Who was this mysterious figure, and what connection did he have to this ancient, forgotten monument? As the group exchanged glances, they couldn't shake the feeling that whatever awaited them here would change the course of their journey forever.